Hey guys, this is Ed, Paul, and Anna of Current Brand Media, and we are here to tell you a little bit more about our sponsor.
Sportsball is a great subscription service geared towards minor league baseball fans. Each box features a different minor league team.
You get a box every 3 months with minor league baseball gear, including different styles of hats like Ed's favorite, the dad hat. The cost is less than $12 a month.
Proceeds from each box goes to More Than Baseball, the only nonprofit dedicated to the well-being of minor league baseball players.
We all know that Parents' Days are coming up this summer, so if you've got a mom or a dad or a grandma or a grandpa who are particularly difficult to buy for, but you know they're baseball fans, this is the answer, guys.
Meet your new favorite team at sportsballbox.com.
Is there anybody there?
And I remember sitting at the bar, and to my right was Hank Aaron, and to my left was Max Patkin, the Clown Prince. And he was telling stories about Bull Durham and when he was in the movie. And Hank Aaron was there, and I said to myself, is this the watershed moment? Do I act like a fan and tell him how great he is, or do I just act like he's any other, iconic slugger sitting next to me?
What's up, Dad Hat Crew? Ed here. And on this episode, I give you guys Pete Fisch. He is the president of the High Point Rockers, but we go back all the way to the beginning on when he was an operations intern for the Albany Patrons of the basketball team up in Albany, New York. That's where he got started. That's what his love for sports really got started. Then we moved down to when he started working in baseball for, a couple of teams you guys may already know, the Carolina Mudcats, Hickory Crawdads, the Winston-Salem Warthawks. That's right. That same team that's known as the Dash. That's right. And then now the Rockers. But without further ado, I give you the episode. All right. Well, I want to welcome you guys to yet another episode of the Dad Hat Chronicles. My name is Ed, and with me, guys, today I have the president of one of the coolest logos and brands out there, High Point Rockers, Peter Fisch. How you doing, Pete?
Doing well, Ed. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast. It is much appreciated. We're going to talk about the team. Obviously, we will. But first, I want to get to know about you, my friend. Tell me, how'd you grow up, loving this sport?
Well, it's funny. My father was not a big baseball fan. I really had nobody around me who was a big baseball fan except my older brother, and we kind of just became baseball fans. And I always wanted to play. I always wanted to be a major league player. I was one of the ones that learned early enough that I wasn't going to be a major league player.
Same here.
Probably, I realized that if the only thing you can do is bunt, but you're not fast, then the bunting really doesn't mean anything. So, I got into, I've always had a love for baseball. I went to my first minor league game in 1975, the Pittsfield Rangers, Pittsfield, Massachusetts, against the Quebec City Metros, Expos affiliate, AA, Eastern League. And they used to come to Albany, New York and they'd play a regular season game at our local municipal stadium. And I didn't realize at the time they were kind of testing the market to see if Albany could ever host a team.
Huh.
And they'd give out free tickets in the schools, and I'd always force my father to take me. And we had a great time. And I just fell in love with it. I said, I want to do this. I want to be around this. I was enthralled with the guys selling peanuts, and I was enthralled with just that you could actually have a job where you work around a game that you really love. And I was like, this is perfect. So, that's kind of where it was born. And it's funny, on my desk, I keep the foul ball that I got from that game right here.
No way.
And it's a McGregor. No one uses a McGregor.
They don't use McGregor anymore.
And it's how we got the foul ball. My brother and I got it. The foul ball was hit. And my brother was wrestling another kid. And my father came down acting as if he knew none of us. And he said, kids, break it up. You take the ball and get out of here. And he gave it to me. So, I still have that ball on my desk, and it reminds me that it all starts with exposing a kid to the game and bringing a kid to the game and seeing everything that goes on. And from there, it's the only thing I've ever done, really.
I see that. I was looking at your resume, which is a very impressive resume. You even did some media relations and operations in for the Rochester Americans in the hockey league.
That was when I always wanted to be in sports. So when I was in high school, in Albany, New York, we got a Continental Basketball Association team, the predecessor to the G League.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a letter to them to just say, I want to know how you do things. What happens? So they invited me down, and turns out the guy I interviewed with had graduated with my brother from high school. We had all these ties. And I said, is there any other opportunities to volunteer? And he said, volunteer? Yeah, okay, we'll take you. If you want to work for free, we'll take you. So the first thing they did was put me in the will call ticket booth. And I happened to be there for a game where John Lucas, who had played at Maryland, first round draft or number 1 draft pick, he had happened to come down to the CBA because he had some troubles in the NBA. And it was his one game in the CBA. And I remember meeting him, and the head coach for the Albany team was Phil Jackson.
Wow.
That was the beginning of his coaching career. And I thought, wow, I can be around this. And I was the only kid. I was in 10th grade, and I was showing up at 4 p.m, and my dad would come pick me up at midnight to go home. I would go to school late the next morning. My parents were good about that, but I learned the business. And from that, Albany got a baseball team. They got the Albany Colony A's.
Yep.
The AA team for the Oakland A's in the Eastern League. And I had an opportunity to park cars there. And it was $3 an hour. And I could have cared less. $3 an hour was a youth pay for the youth jobs program. And the best thing was everybody who came into the player lot where I worked, you had to check who they were.
Oh, geez.
So I knew it was all the players, and I knew it was coaches and that. So I'd act like dumb. And every time, and I'd say, okay, can I have your name? Mickey Tettleton. Okay, Mickey, you can park right over there. And these guys would come in, and I just got to know them and really enjoyed it. And from that, it progressed to the next year. I was working in the stadium, doing concessions, and then it went from concessions to working during the day and then doing concessions at night. And from that point, I was kind of hooked, and I did it every summer during college. And then when I graduated from college, I went to the winter meetings in 1988 in Atlanta with a buddy of mine who is still in baseball as well. And we shared a room, and we went to the bar, and we handed out resumes. And I remember sitting at the bar, and to my right was Hank Aaron, and to my left was Max Patkin, the Clown Prince. And he was telling stories about Bull Durham and when he was in the movie. And Hank Aaron was there, and I said to myself, is this the watershed moment? Do I act like a fan and tell him how great he is, or do I just act like he's any other, iconic slugger sitting next to me? And so I did not talk to him. I did not shake his hand. I just sat next to Hank Aaron, and
you
that was
soaked up the moment.
Yeah. It was. That's when I kind of realized, that you can be a fan, but you also, if you're going to be in the business, you have to understand that they're just regular human beings as well. And I interviewed there, and I had one interview, and it was with the Columbus Mudcats of the Southern League in Columbus, Georgia. And obviously they couldn't find anybody else, because they said, could you start right as soon as you graduate college in May? I said, I'll do you one better. I'll come down for spring break, and if you'll fly me down, I'll come down for a week in February, and I'll start getting things ready. They said, you're going to run concessions. Have you ever done that? And I said, sure, of course I have. And then I figured, what did I get myself into? But I winged it. And, I ran concessions for 2 seasons in Columbus, Georgia. And then we moved the team to Zebulon, North Carolina. And then from there, I went from assistant general manager there to Hickory, North Carolina. And from there to be GM in Winston-Salem. And when Winston-Salem sold, I stayed with the ownership group that had 3 other teams, stayed with them. I managed a senior PGA golf event for him, worked in college athletics, did just a little bit of everything. And And I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to stay in the business all these years. And just it gets under your skin. And I don't know anything different. It's just what I've done.
It's funny because like I said, I was looking at the resume and I'm like, oh my God, he was with the Winston-Salem Warthogs. Like they weren't even the Dash when you were there. And it's like, I mean, first of all, such a great name, like, Spirits before that, and then Warthogs, and then now Dash. And it's like, man, like, I'm sure you've seen like some cool stuff when you were, still here in North Carolina.
Well, so I've been with the Mudcats, the Crawdads, the Warthogs, and now the Rockers. So I was with the Mudcats when they were the first true logo.
Yeah.
The Durham Bulls were a big logo, but that came from the movie. The Mudcats introduced it in Columbus, and CNN came down and did a story on the team about this sleepy southern town revitalizing baseball with this creative nickname. And we didn't know when it was going to run. And then one day in the office, the phone rang. Then it rang again. Then it rang again. And we realized it had run on CNN because it was people calling to get hats. And the Mudcats, that Mudcat hat was a hot item. And then that team moved to Zebulon, and it continued to stay hot. But that was the dawn of the merchandising, was that Carolina Mudcats thing that was organic. There was no movie, anything like that. It was very organic. So, I said I went from being a Mudcat to a Crawdad to a Warthog. So I didn't know if I was going up the food chain or down the food chain. I just know I was in the food chain.
You are somewhere in there in between.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was kind of the dawn of the logo being sellable. And you had, so it became, at the time, the Mudcats were the exception. Some odd name. Everybody else was, Tigers, Indians,
yep,
Red Sox, Yankees, whatever was going to be the major league affiliate you were named.
Yeah.
When I got to Columbus, they were the Columbus Astros, which, the Astro brand didn't have a lot of cachet in
like it does now. Yeah.
South Georgia. So then if you fast forward 10 years from that time, the exception is the team that keeps the major league nickname. And the Kinston Indians were an example of that. The Kinston Indians kept it while everybody else was changing to the Myrtle Beach Pelicans and the Winston-Salem Warthogs and the Salem Avalanche and, in the Carolina League. And the Kinston Indians were the one that kept that old major league name. So it's been fun to watch it evolve. And working in minor league baseball is like a fraternity.
Yeah.
You know a lot of people that you've dealt with, and they get recycled. I'm an example of that. I stepped out of it and worked kind of in an administrative role, and then got back into the day-to-day stuff. But it's funny when you see, I saw you had Chuck Domino on, a while ago. I was in high school working in Albany when I remember Chuck was the young phenom for the Reading Phillies. And, and Chuck's still contributing and doing great, and now he's in Frederick.
Yeah.
Just someone who is really a student of this industry and has brought so much to it. And there's guys like that. There's folks I can look at different teams and see guys I worked with or worked for. I can look at broadcasters and I can see broadcasters of mine that have moved on. I'll see one doing an SEC game on the ESPN, and I think I remember when he was making a couple $100 a month and just trying to cut it. So it's fun to watch the progression of people, teams, cities. If you look back at the late 70s, early 80s, the major league teams were spinning off teams. They didn't want to own them anymore.
Yeah.
And then in the past, probably 5, 6, 7 years, they've been buying them, and now they're selling them again. So everything goes in cycles.
Funny how that works now, right? How it's crazy. Very cyclical. Like, minor league thing is like the most famous thing there is. So like, it's the popular thing. And like you said, branding has become such a big part of the DNA that is minor league baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Merchandising. I mean, obviously we're having a conversation and we were just talking about how many hats I have in different minor league teams. And it's just same thing with a lot of these, people that have been involved. You've been involved in different teams. Chuck Domino, right? He's from Akron all the way to, Fredericks. Like, it's good to see that there's people out there that believe in the brand that is minor league baseball, even if it's independent, which is the team that you're with now.
I've seen too many good things with minor league baseball, not to be passionate about it. It's an equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
You and I can sit at a game and watch it, and we're seeing the same thing on the field.
Yep.
But we may have different opinions on it. We may have different views, but at that time, the CEO and the entry-level worker are now talking about the same equalizing thing on the field.
Yeah.
No one comes to the ballpark to be upset, to be mad, to have a bad day. They come here to get away. They come here to have a
forget.
good time. They just come here to know that it's a place they can go and, like you said, forget about things or connect. And I love to see that. People always wonder, I get people who tell me I can't get season tickets. How can I show up every night? I've got people that show up every night. We've got people that if they don't show up, we call the house to see where they were.
Just making sure they're still good.
Yeah, because we have some older season ticket holders, and when they don't show up, we'll make a phone call just to say, hey, not to scare you, but we just want to make sure you haven't missed a game in 2 years. Where were you? Oh, so-and-so was feeling a little sick. Well, we need you back out here. We used to have, we have, a season ticket holder that will take public transit to get to the stadium, and then someone will drive her home at night because she wants to be here. Yep. And that's part of what we can do, that you're never going to find somebody at the major league level who's going to take a fan home.
Yeah.
Or something like that. That's why this, minor league baseball is a beautiful thing. It brings communities together and brings people together. And, it's a great thing to be a part of.
So let me ask you this, because obviously you're now part of an independent, team, right? This is something a little bit different than what it was with the affiliated team. What attracted you to the High Point Rockers and say, this is somewhere that I want to be?
Well, one thing, I've been in this market for 28 years. So I'm at a point where I wanted to stay in one place. And I remember when High Point got the team and they built a stadium, and I thought to myself, that'd be pretty cool to start something from scratch again. And I just said, I'm good with what I'm doing.
Right.
But then when the position opened again, I actually inquired about it. A gentleman that's, we're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 nonprofit.
Okay.
We don't have an owner. We have a board. And one of the guys on the board I had known from years ago working at Wake Forest. And I had called him and I said, have you guys found anybody yet? And he goes, I wish you would have called me about a week earlier. We just offered it to somebody and, sorry. And I thought, well, wasn't meant to be. And then he called me 2 days later and said, the guy didn't accept. Are you interested?
What?
Let's sit down and talk. And just the things aligned. And, I started here March 9th, 2020. If you want to recall specific dates, they canceled the ACC tournament on March 13th. They canceled the Masters following that. They canceled the baseball season following that. So I started, I brought COVID with me to baseball. But the thing is, I stepped out of college athletics and I think about what my colleagues in the collegiate arena went through during COVID. And there was something that told me this was the right thing to do. And we were able to, during COVID, we kept everybody employed.
That's amazing.
Being a nonprofit, our board of directors said, our job is to keep everybody employed. how we did that is with the creativity of this staff I have of doing events at the stadium and making sure that this multi-purpose stadium that was only a year old and had only had one season under its belt could stay afloat. And we did everything from weddings to funerals to soccer, baseball, softball, cricket. We did comedy shows. We did graduations. We did anything that needed an outdoor setting. And we opened our concession stand as a restaurant every day so people could come and eat outside. We rented the suites out if people wanted to have a work from home but not be at home, something like that.
I get it.
It really was incredible that, we'll talk about that years from now of how teams kept going and kept afloat. But it just shows you the resiliency of this industry.
I was just going to say, it's funny how that worked out, because it ended up being that a lot of minor league teams, decided that, okay, so what are we going to do? We're not just going to just lay down and just die here. Like, we got to survive. What are we going to do? And, a lot of very ingenious things, like, Airbnb, stay at, overnight at the ballpark and things like that, that really you guys were able to survive. And, like you said, your whole staff was with you guys the whole time. And that's very commendable. Like that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it was really incredible. And it's something that I don't think we appreciated as much going through it. Now we look back at it and we realize what the group did, because it wasn't a matter of that's not part of my job or I don't do that. It says, what else can we do? And I think it was partially fear. Everybody was worried about losing a job, but and I mentioned the things, and we joke about it, weddings and funerals, but they couldn't have services for larger funerals in the church. So we had there was a local high school baseball coach that we were close to that passed away, and they wanted to have something where his students could attend, but they wouldn't allow it in the gymnasium at the school. So we did it at the stadium and spread folks out, and we had 500 plus people.
That's amazing.
We did some comedy shows on the field. We had Rob Schneider from Saturday Night Live. He was on the field, and we just spread out tables like a Vegas show. So everybody had distance, and we had waitress service that brought down their food and beverage. And, it was, who would have ever thought pre-COVID that would have made sense? It wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah. No, not at all. Like it doesn't, now it does, right? Like, looking back and you're like, my God, the things that we did to survive, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so let's talk about, obviously, you're with the High Point Rockers, which is one of the most iconic logos out there, right? Like, I mean, it's something different. It stands out. You don't see a rocking chair with fire, coming.
You have 400 hats. I will challenge you to find one somewhere on that wall that has a piece of furniture on it.
I don't. Yours. That's it.
When someone was the couch potatoes or something, one of the one-offs, but there's not another brand that I know of in professional sports that is a piece of furniture is what your logo is.
You're right. I'm looking at it right now. I'm turning around right now.
Now there's other teams called the Rockers, the Green Bay Rockers in the
but that's different though.
But they're rock and roll. We are a rocking chair. And as goofy as it is, as people may look at it and why do I want to wear that? You know what? It's one of a kind. You're not going to find a brand or anything that has a rocking chair.
So because I knew the Rockers back when they were, their main logo was the HP, right? So like you guys have that logo, and then but have the chair as the other logo. Was your decision to say, hey, I think we really should really bring this logo out to make it more unique for you guys?
That's exactly it. Because when I got here, everything had the HP on it. And they didn't use the rocking chair, although they had it. They didn't use it. And HP could stand for a lot of things. And granted, it represents High Point. But I learned this at Wake Forest, that the WF put together is also used by a high school in the area, another high school, in the eastern part of the state. So that WF could mean multiple things. An HP could mean multiple things as well. but that rocking chair means one thing.
Yep. Absolutely.
And the only objection was someone said, well, people are going to think we're more of a geriatric team, and it's, you know, the rocking, but the rocking chair is probably the most comfortable piece of furniture you can have. You know, when you want to relax and you sit on the front porch, you don't sit on a recliner on the front porch, you sit in a rocking chair.
That is true.
There's ties to that. So we made a concerted effort to go, and that is our logo. That is our, you know, I view it as our brand. And we now we have it on our game hats. We have a blue hat that has the HP on it, and a red hat that has the rocking chair. We have the rocking chair on the sleeve of jerseys. We put it on more merchandise. We do it in our marketing. We use the rocking chair because that's that's the identity in my mind.
And listen, it is, and I'm literally on your website right now on the merchandise site. It's like it's part of the baseball beer and baseball T-shirts. It's on some of the trucker hats, the hoodies, and even the polos that has the rocking chair on it. And like you said, it's unique. And no one is gonna, you know, make a mistake by saying oh no, that's a different team. No, that is the High Point Rockers.
You know, when you go with an animal, there's and I've been with them. There's several different fish that are logos. There's several different bears that are logos. There's several different birds that are logos, but there are not several different types of furniture that are logos. And you know, High Point is the international home furnishings capital. Lots of furniture history there. The American Furniture Manufacturers Hall of Fame is going to be here, you know, things like that. So there's as goofy as it may sound, that is the legacy of High Point, and that's what we're playing off of, is that legacy.
I was just gonna say, it's like, isn't that part of minor league baseball, right? Being able to adopt and become entrenched in the community in which you're in, right?
Well, you know, I think it gives you that ability to do that with whatever name, moniker, logo you get. You have that ability to truly identify with the community, and there's a lot of good ones out there. There's
absolutely,
good ones. And I love the ones that have some type of a story to it, but it's not so far of a story that you have to manufacture the story to fit.
Yep.
People can see that tie. And when I was at Wake Forest, there was talks about getting rid of the Demon Deacon head. It was goofy and it was creepy and it was scary, you know, to kids. And I said, you know what, but that's our goofy.
Yeah.
That's our scary. That's our creepy. You know, that's kind of the thing. And it's the same way with our rocking chair. It's our goofy. And we should be proud of it, and we have to defend that. And I think I remember I was involved with when the Crawdads were named, the Hickory Crawdads.
Yep.
And there were several names that were finalists, and we sat around a table. There was this large group, and we went through the names, and they had the Hound Dogs. You know, okay, the River Rats, the Valley Cats. And then they had the Crawdads.
Yep.
And there were a couple of people that said, oh, I don't know about that. And myself and a guy who's with Charlotte Knights now, Marty Steele. Marty was our general manager, and we both said, tell you what, let's keep that on the list. And as they started to think about it, they thought, you know, that's kind of interesting. I remember going and catching crawdads in the creek and doing this. And so if you have that reaction, it makes sense to keep it, because I could not see the Hickory team being the Valley Cats or the River Rats or the Hound Dogs. It's perfect as Crawdads now. And I remember when we named it Crawdads, we'd get phone calls, and I remember distinctly someone calling and saying, that name is terrible. It's disrespectful to the area. I don't know why you did it. And I said, I'm sorry, ma'am. And she said, how do I get a cap?
What?
Because my son wants a cap. Like, thank you for your opinion, and thank you for your credit card number as well. We're gonna, you know, we'll sell you that cap. So, but and I remember we joked about the names, Hickory is a furniture area too. And someone had submitted the name 8-way hand-tied sofa.
Wow.
There's just such a thing as an 8-way hand-tied sofa. And we joked and we thought, how would you ever fit that across a jersey? And would your logo just be a couch? Well, fast forward 30 years, now my logo is a rocking chair. So
Right, I was just going to say,
we were ahead of our time.
and it worked out,
Exactly.
And as far as the Hickory Crawdads, I mean, that's a very iconic, name around here. And to really not think of the team as that, it's just, it'll feel weird, to be honest with you.
It's just like the Carolina Mudcats, to think of it as anything else. Muddy the Mudcat, and we were the Mudcats in Columbus, Georgia. We tried to create that theme. We had the fish tank on the concourse with the big old catfish that was in there that we had caught in the Chattahoochee River, and we sold catfish sandwiches. We tried that whole theme, and I couldn't think of it as anything different than the Carolina Mudcats.
I was just going to say, it's like, that, and that's how a lot of teams, they have something very specific to their name that they sell within that, the team in the ballpark. So, I mean, I think that's amazing, right? Like you are fully embracing what it is to, be part of the High Point Rockers. And that's amazing.
Yeah. We tie rocking chairs in on the concourse. We've got them throughout the stadium. We give one away to a season ticket to anybody. We do it at the end of the year, so that's kind of how we tie to that. But I think everybody it's great when you can tie your name to different things and themes you have within the ballpark.
Yep. You're absolutely right. I hope you guys enjoy that episode with Pete. Now, this is part 1, guys, okay? You guys got to come back for part 2. We talk about the team, some of the nuances of that relationship with the team, the league, and Major League Baseball. It was really good. It was a lot of cool things that he shared with us here on the podcast. So you guys got to come back next week, and you guys got to listen to it, okay? Now, here's my part where I got to, do my pay the bills and, just let you guys know that Baseball Barbecue is out there. Guys, if you guys go to www.baseballbarbecue.com/dadhat, a portion of that sale will go to yours truly, and you know what I am going to do with that money, right? Buy more dad hats so I can show them off to you guys. That's right, not even gonna lie. But here's what I'll do. On your first purchase, I will give you the code BBQ20. That'll give you 20% off of your first purchase. So that way you get to save a little bit of money. All right. And now we get to the dad joke of the episode. And here it is. What is the chair's favorite kind of TV show? Sitcoms. All right. I see myself out. And until then, keep on grinding and always support the minor leagues. See ya.
This podcast is part of the Curved Brim Media Network. Here are some of the other members of Curved Brim Media.
Hi, this is Ed Rivera of the Dad Hat Chronicles. Join me as I interview people just like you and players, coaches, GMs on the path that led you to become a fan of the sport.
I'm Paul Caputo, and on the Baseball by Design podcast, I talk to minor league baseball teams, designers, and other super interesting people about what these minor league baseball logos mean. And I talk a little bit about ice cream helmets.
What's up, Bucketheads? I'm Anna DiTomaso, and each week on the Baseball Bucket List podcast, I speak with a different fan about their favorite baseball memories, what the game means to them, and what's left to check off on their baseball bucket list.
Hey guys, this is Patrick Larson from the Minor League Baseball Hat History Series, and in every episode I go through the history of minor league teams through my personal collection of hats. You can find me on Twitter at @PatLarson1. I hope you guys enjoy.
This is Patrick
and Corey
of BaseballMapper.com, and we have made an interactive map to help highlight all baseball teams from the majors down to collegiate summer leagues.
We want to bring you closer to baseball. So get on the site and find a team near you today.
Learn more about Curved Brim Media at curvedbrimmedia.com.